ESPN NFL insider Field Yates with Armin and Levac on 104.5 The Team. Field, what is your take on the New York Giants situation with Tom Coughlin now no longer the head coach?
Yeah, I think it's okay to simultaneously be disappointed that Tom Coughlin is no longer the head coach for the New York Giants, but also feel as though it may have been time for a change. I mean, Tom Coughlin himself admitted that it was time for a change at the head coach spot in New York. But, you know, in a league where patience is entirely, I would say, it's basically vanished, the New York Giants stuck by Tom Coughlin. I mean, how many times was Tom Coughlin fired without ever being fired? What I mean by that is people saying his job needed to be taken from him, or, hey, if they don't win this week or if they don't make the playoffs this season, he should no longer be the New York Giants head coach. And there he was. He continued to press forward. But this is a team that we know has disappointed a bit over recent seasons. The 6-10 finish this year, counting amongst those.
As we look forward, who are you hearing are potential replacements for Tom Coughlin?
Well, I would say this, that the job is very desirable for a number of reasons. And we start in-house, obviously. That's always the case. Ben McAdoo, Steve Spagnuolo, the two coordinators, will get a look from the New York Giants, but you'll also hear plenty of the other buzzworthy names right now, including Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. And then what does the Giants job offer that makes it more compelling or more attractive than other jobs? Well, I think you start with a quarterback who signed a 4-year extension just the beginning of the 2015 regular season, Eli Manning. That stability at the most important position on the field. Then you factor in as well that this is an ownership group, as we just talked about, has showed loyalty. They've stuck by head coaches. They've stuck by general managers. A new head coach or a potential head coach candidate is going to like those two factors in a major way, because you could have that, or let's just say you interview for a job like Cleveland, where they seem to change coaches every 5 months. A little bit longer than that, but not by much. And we know the quarterback quandary in Cleveland is basically 2 decades old now.
ESPN NFL insider Field Yates. So the Giants' job is the most attractive head coaching gig open right now, yes?
I think it's right. It's near the top. I think there's a compelling case to be made for Tennessee as well, just because you have a quarterback in Marcus Mariota. I believe he was just 22 years old, or just recently 23, and he may be the best young quarterback amongst the jobs that are available. But the difficulty with Tennessee is that the roster otherwise is not very good. Also, this is an ownership group. There's a lot of questions about the ownership in Tennessee. There's no general manager in place right now. And then you can kind of paint both sides of the picture in the AFC South in terms of, I'm going to make up a word here, winnability going forward. Because on the one hand, no division had fewer combined wins in 2015 than the AFC South. I believe it was just 25 total for the division this past year. At the same time, what do Tennessee, Jacksonville, and Indianapolis all have in common? They have a bright young future at quarterback with the players they've already drafted in recent years. And then Houston, despite not having a quote-unquote franchise quarterback to build around, just won the division. So for Tennessee, in some ways, you could say, well, it's a weak division, but it also could be one that turns strong in the future years because of the fact that Blake Bortles, Marcus Mariota, and, of course, Andrew Luck are in it.
Hey, Field, will Tom Coughlin be on the sidelines coaching another NFL team next year?
You know, guys, I was thinking when it looked like the Indianapolis job was going to open up with Chuck Pagano, I thought that would be one that made sense for Tom Coughlin. It's an organization that has a track record of success and a quarterback that we just talked about. I just think that, there's something that the stability is the issue right now in Indianapolis. Now, maybe that changed pretty much overnight with the re-signing of Chuck Pagano and the extension for Ryan Grigson, but I don't know that I see Tom Coughlin taking one of these jobs. I don't know that I imagine him taking the Tennessee or a Cleveland job, Philadelphia as well. And that leaves really San Francisco and, which one do I forget? The New York Giants, which obviously he wouldn't take that one. So it really leaves just a couple of options there. I don't know that I see it, guys. I also don't think that a team would be short-sighted in hiring a coach at the age of 69, because I believe that Tom Coughlin still has gas left in the tank. And how long are you really hiring a head coach for? If you got 5 good years out of Tom Coughlin, is that worth it? To me, it certainly would be.
Field, Ben McAdoo, offensive coordinator of the Giants, reports are now he's going to interview with the Eagles tomorrow. Is he a true head coaching candidate right now in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say this. He's definitely a name of note. And even if it's not this year, it could well be that next year. I mean, he did some really good things with Eli this year. You look at the sack totals in New York, and I'm not saying sack totals are the primary objective for an offensive coordinator, but Eli, who dropped back a ton, was not sacked that frequently, despite an offensive line that had a bunch of moving parts. The reason I mention that is it illustrates the point that the system that Ben McAdoo put in place in New York was a strong one. Basically, it was get the football out quickly for Eli Manning, who had, I'm not sure if it was quite a career year, but you can make the case for it being a career year for Eli Manning, despite the 6 wins for the New York Giants. So Ben McAdoo is a name that, even if this year is more getting his name out there and some familiarity with owners, maybe a year from now, and depending on how things shake out in New York, we're saying this could be one of the top candidates, a la an Adam Gase right now with the Chicago Bears, who got significant sniffs last year as a head coach, did not end up getting a job, goes to the Bears and helps Jay Cutler, I don't want to say resurrect his career, but Jay Cutler had a strong season, even though, again, Chicago won just 6 games.
Is Gase the guy who's going to be in Philadelphia from what you're saying?
It seems like that would be one that makes sense, to put it that way. But Doug Peterson of the Kansas City Chiefs, also a name to note. Now, remember, Peterson cannot interview until after this week at the earliest, whereas Adam Gase, he's got no playoff commitments right now. He can interview with anybody right this moment. So I think one thing that's important for teams to remember is that hiring the first coach is not better than hiring the right coach. And last year we saw the Atlanta Falcons wait and wait and wait. And then they ended up signing Dan Quinn as their head coach. Now, we know that Quinn was basically a done deal to Atlanta, but they ran a bit of risk, guys. You know, they waited until after the Super Bowl. You never know. Things can change. A coach can have a change of heart. And if Dan Quinn had said, I'm good, I'm going to stay here in Seattle, where does Atlanta go from there? But I bring that up again because even if there are coaches who are available sooner than a Doug Peterson, if Jeffrey Lurie and the Eagles brain trust feels like he would be the best option for them as the head coach, that's the direction that they got to go.
NFL reporter for ESPN, Field Yates, with Armin and Levac at Field Yates on Twitter. Field, were you surprised that the Giants did not fire Jerry Reese?
No, because that's not really with what, it doesn't really fit into what they do model-wise. That being said, is there major room for improvement? Yes, there is. And I think Jerry Reese should be able to concede that as well. Dan Graziano, who covers the Giants day-to-day for us here at ESPN, him and I have talked about this on a couple of occasions, that there's 3 players that Jerry Reese has drafted that have gone on to sign a second contract with the New York Giants. One of those is a long snapper, and that's not to mitigate the importance of a long snapper, but just that's a position where, you don't see as much movement in the free agent market as there versus wide receiver or something like that. The track record of drafting has not been great, guys, and I think that's part of the reason why it was such a difficult decision to see Tom Coughlin move on. And I say difficult as in, I say emotionally, but I just mean that, certainly it was one that you saw the players, you saw how much he meant to them. I'm not saying the roster was entirely flawed, but there were some significant holes in this New York Giants roster this year that weren't tended to. And if you're the general manager who's building that 53, at some point you got to point the finger back at yourself.
Hey, Field, will John Gruden or Bill Cowher be an NFL head coach again?
I don't think so, guys. You hate to say the ship has entirely sailed because you never know. I mean, Joe Gibbs came out of retirement and ended up coaching with Washington again, which people probably never would have forecasted. Things do happen. I just think we're probably past that point. And, I know John a little bit. I don't know Coach Cowher, but I would say that if you look at what they have going right now, gigs-wise, they've got some excellent gigs on their hands right now. And you guys know what the grind of being a head coach can be like. I mean, it's just a 365-day battle. And it's such a commitment. It's hard on a coach, hard on a family. Those guys, the jobs they have right now, lifestyle-wise, might be what they're looking for. Both of them have a Super Bowl ring. You can make the case for them as potential Hall of Fame-type coaches, or at least some of the best of the last 20 years. So, yeah, both of those guys, I would be surprised at this point if they ended up back in the NFL.
Speaking of surprises, Field, what are your thoughts on the Browns bringing in Mr. Moneyball Paul DePodesta?
Yeah, guys, I would say this. I've heard the argument that, hey, why don't we applaud the Browns for thinking outside the box when conventional wisdom has not paid off for them over the past handful of years. In some ways, I agree with that. On the other hand, I would say that maybe the biggest issue with the hire is that you are now going to have to interview head coaching candidates who are going to wonder about the structure of the organization, and your answer is going to be yes. In essence, the roster will be built by someone whose background is analytics in Shafi Brown, and then someone whose background is baseball. So how is that going to resonate with, a quote-unquote purist amongst football? And I'm not trying to poo-poo the importance of analytics, because there's a place for them in any sport, really. But I think perception is what you're going to be fighting when you're the Cleveland Browns looking to hire a head coach. Let's just take any of the names that have been on their wish list. Maybe it's Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator for the Patriots. Is he going to want to go and take his first head coaching job, knowing how unconventional the setup is? Maybe the answer is yes, but I do think that some candidates are going to look at it and say, I'm just not sure if this is the right fit for me. So I don't want to knock it because we haven't even seen it put together for a day.
Right.
But it's something that I think is going to, or has the potential to, and I wouldn't be surprised, wouldn't be shocked, let's put it that way, if in 2 years we're having the same conversation about the Browns starting over.
ESPN NFL insider Field Yates with Armin and Levac. How is Doug Marrone being viewed as a head coaching candidate right now from teams around the league?
Well, he's certainly a busy guy right now. He's a name that when he opted out of his contract in Buffalo last year, it was in part because he believed something else would open up for him. What specifically that was, you can make the case that there wasn't a perfect fit for him, and maybe he thought he had the Jets job in the bag, but the Jets decided to go a different way, hiring Todd Bowles, which seems to be a move that has clearly worked out for them. But, I just think that Doug Marrone is a coach who, either because he knew something we all didn't know or because he did a really good job this year that people would say you got to look past some of the numbers, he's on the radar. I think he's a coach that, he's been in multiple different spots. Obviously, the Buffalo tenure wasn't great, guys, but who's been a good head coach for the Buffalo Bills of late in terms of track record of wins and losses? So he's a name that's certainly on the radar. I don't know if I'd say he's a lock for one of his head coaching jobs, but he certainly is going to get a lot of looks. And at least you have your hat in the race.
Field, when the dust settles, what teams will be playing in L.A.?
Man, I think, and again, this how do we know for sure? I wouldn't be surprised if it's San Diego and St. Louis. I don't know, guys. I think it's, three teams who clearly want to go and three teams who clearly don't have a great fallback option. It's not like you can make the case St. Louis or San Diego or Oakland is the strongest, incumbent city for them to stay at. I got to tell you, though, when I look at when I read some of the comments from ownership, you'd almost think that each of these groups thinks they're done, thinks they're gone, thinks they're already booked for L.A. It's a fascinating story. I am less, I would say that I'm not, it's not as if the idea of L.A. football is something that I've been, craving for years, but I am interested in if, in fact, two of these three teams go, what is the reaction to the one who stays? How is that team embraced by the city it's still in? And how does the ownership group act when it returns? I mean, do they go back and say, well, it's just a matter of time until we find somewhere else to go? Or do they say, okay, L.A. didn't work out, let's work to rebuild our home?
Field Yates, we got the first round of the NFL playoffs this weekend. You're on the horn all the time. You got scoop from around the league. What's the one tidbit that we should know going into the NFL playoffs this weekend?
I tell you what, guys, I'm not sure it's a tidbit. It's just a thing I can't stop thinking about, which is, when was the last time the Green Bay Packers, now they've been in the playoffs, this is their seventh straight year, tied with the Patriots for the longest active streak in the NFL. When was the last time there was a Green Bay Packers team that your confidence level was minimal about their chances going forward? I mean, that's if this were the Patriots entering the postseason and you thought they had no chance, to me it would be a dominant headline. Maybe but to me, in Green Bay right now, you can make the case for the sixth best team in the NFC. I'm just surprised that we are at the point. I'm just surprised at how the season shook out. Green Bay, I believe, started 6-0 this year. It feels like it's taken a very different turn in just a matter of a couple of months. So I'm not saying the Packers don't have a chance, but I believe, I'm writing about this week on ESPN.com, that there's no more important player to his team's playoff success this year than Aaron Rodgers. Because if they don't get brilliant Aaron Rodgers from Green Bay on Sunday and going forward, I don't think they have a shot. I mean, not even close to a shot. But if they get brilliant Aaron Rodgers, anytime you have Aaron Rodgers on the field, you have at least a chance.
ESPN NFL reporter Field Yates, one of our favorites, at Field Yates on Twitter. Field, it's a busy time of the year. Thanks so much for dropping a few with us, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.